Hello, everyone. Can we all hear me? All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining. And good morning to every one of us online and those who are yet to join us. It's a privilege to have you all here. We are so glad that you could be a part of this session, fireside chat today. We'll be welcoming our guest. But before I do that, I'd like to welcome our CEO, President Benga. Benga, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Which position? So you are playing defense. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So our guest speaker, Barrister Izuchukwu, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be a part of our goal at BuyLetLive, which is to enlighten more Nigerians, especially on issues around ownership of properties. So thank you so much for taking time out to share your wealth of experience and looking forward to a very, very engaging session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. I'm going to be introducing our guest speaker to us right now. I want you to know that he's someone who has great experience, and I'm just going to be introducing him briefly. Okay. Today we are having Barrister Izuchukwu Ubadinma. Barrister Izuchukwu Ubadinma is someone who has 15 years of legal advisory experience. Mr. Ubadinma has carved out a strong reputation in corporate commercial law and real estate, and capital market regulatory compliance. He has advised numerous clients locally and internationally across diverse industries. He's a partner at the DealHQ Partners, where he leads the firm capital market and corporate regulatory practice. He also heads the Abuja office. He's a self-licensed capital market consultant, a member of the NBA session of business law, and currently serves as coordinator of BGC Business Incubation Hub. We are thrilled to have you this morning, sir. Thank you for honoring the invitation. Maybe we have anything to say yes, or going to be discussed in our course. Can you hear me, sir? Hello? It seems Mr. Electric is having some little network. It's going to be joining us shortly. First time, you are welcome to Fireside Chat. That's been an exciting one so far. This is not the first of its kind. We have been having events like this that have been able to help people both in Nigeria and diaspora, to make informed decisions about real estate, make data-driven decisions. In the age and time now, data is everything. We want you to make informed decisions. We don't want you to just fall a victim of fraudulent activities happening in the real estate sector. I think Marissa is joining us now. So, can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
All right, sir. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, sir. We don't know if you have anything that's anything to say to our audience before we get into the business of the day, sir.
I didn't get that.
Can you hear me, sir? Hello? All right. All right. So as I was saying, I think Barrister is still having it's going to be part. It's going to be joining us shortly. So just need us to exercise a little.
It's back online.
Okay, sir. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, we're talking about the fire.
Timmy, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you perfectly, sir. Perfectly. Hello?
Everybody said we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, I stopped hearing. I didn't get the last question what you said.
Okay.
Timo was saying
I introduced you and I was asking if there's anything you would like to share briefly before we go into the business of the day.
Oh, okay. All right. So sorry, I didn't get that. All right. First, I'm happy to be in this section, in this webinar. One of the things I will have to just say, the introduction is fine. There is really nothing much to add at this time. But I just want to say one of the reasons why this webinar is very important. When it comes to land matters, land issues, land is older than man, as it were, and will also outlive man. So that is why it is one of the major sources of conflicts you may have either between individuals, corporate organizations, or communities or nations of the world. Land is always a very critical thing because man will meet land and land will outlive man. Still, man will have to quarrel over land. So it is very important that before you get into any transaction involving land, whether you are getting land on a temporary basis, which would be for lease, or on sort of a permanent basis, because it's not necessarily really permanent basis. But let's put it in that light. If you're acquiring land, you still have to do certain things. So, and this webinar seems to be very, it is one of the relatively most important webinars anyone should be attending now, especially if you are in places such as Lagos or Abuja, particularly FCT, because it seems to be the trending, FCT seems to be trending when it comes to land transactions.
Yeah.
So it's very important that anyone that is in this webinar tries to pick one or two things that will help them to avoid potential conflicts when it comes to land acquisition, land ownership, or even if you're leasing land for 5 years, for 1 year. It's important to get to know some of the red flags you should watch out for and the pitfalls and how to avoid them. All right.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. In fact, the real estate sector, both in Lagos and Abuja, has been having a lot of activity happening. So if you are in Lagos and in Abuja and you are on Discord, I want you to put your ears down and listen very carefully. Try and get one or two things that will help you and protect you from any unforeseen circumstances. your investment or whatever decision you're going to be making in the real estate sector. So that being said, I think we can go straight into the event of today. Sir, we have some questions already, and people are still going to be sending some questions, but we're able to curate some questions down before this event. So we're going to be going through those questions. Once we exhaust our questions, yes, before the event, we'll take other questions and then we'll proceed them. So I'm going to be going straight to the first question that we have here. It says, how do I confirm that the person selling the land or property is the true owner? And what are the biggest red flags to watch out for when buying property in Nigeria?
Okay, very, very good question. And I think that question is also well captured in the sense that when it comes to land acquisition, the very first thing, of course, after you've seen a land, the very next thing is about who owns the land. And then the question is, how do I confirm the ownership? Whoever I'm dealing with is the owner of the land. So first of all, under the Nigerian laws, all the lands, and that is the land use act, every land in Nigeria belongs to the state governor of that particular state. So if you go to Lagos, all the land in Lagos not necessarily belong. The governor holds it in trust for the people. So quote unquote, lands do not belong to people, as it were. They belong to, or rather to individuals, as it were, is a common property of the state in question. So the governor holds it in trust for the people in the state. So if you want land, the government gives you a portion, allocates a portion to you, gives you statutory rights of occupancy and then certificates of occupancy, as it were. However, there are certain lands that are designated as native lands, usually mostly in the rural areas, left for the people to work on. But of course, there are certain obligations and certain documentations that will still have to be done for those lands to be designated as such. But generally, all lands within the urban sector is under the control of the governor. So first of all, if someone is selling land to you and you have met the first level of your inquiries to confirm that this land belongs to Mr. Temilehin, and Mr. Temilehin shows you a document, maybe a deed of assignment, or depending on how he bought the land and the title the land has, the next thing you may want to go and do is to go back to the person that holds all the land in trust for the people, and that is the governor. You go back to the governor to check if Temilehin was duly allocated this land. And that is assuming Temilehin is the first allottee of that land from the governor, from the government. And of course, if you're going to the governor exercises this right of allocating lands to people through any of his appointees. And in this case, it will usually be the Commissioner for Lands. And under that, the Commissioner for Lands is in charge of the land registry, or however it's called in various jurisdictions. So what you then do is you go to the land registry. I just took it down that way so that you see how it flows. You go to the land registry to confirm if the title that Temilehin claims belongs to him is actually registered or not. And if Temilehin is not the first allottee of that land, then the document he's giving to you must trace, do a historical tracing down to the first person that land belongs to. So, and it is expected that those history must have been recorded in the land registry. So if then the Land Use Act came in 1978. And this was during the time former President Obasanjo was the military head of state. So any land that were not, all the lands then were transferred to the state governor in trust for the people. So government started issuing certificate of occupancy. There was other laws that were applicable. So if there are lands that were not captured then that are supposed to be captured, it is expected they come back to the government to have their title registered. However, the practice is that most people do not, even when they have good title, as it were. The land belongs to them, but there is no record of them registering that land in the land registry. So what you do is that you will also rely on doing a traditional due diligence to confirm. You ask questions. If it's a community land, as it were, you go to the traditional rulers, you make inquiries to confirm that this land belongs to the people. You don't run with only the documents you have been given to you. You will have to go to the land, ask questions, go to the land registry and all of that. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think one of the things that I've been able to take out from that it's important that you do your due diligence, whether from the government or from the traditional man. It's important that you do your due diligence before any decision is taken on your property. We'll be going to the second question now. Second question is, can I still obtain a legal title if the seller doesn't have a certificate of occupancy, that is the COO, but has other documents such as a purchase receipt and a land survey?
Similarly, can you take that again?
Yeah,
I
take the question again.
Yes, I didn't hear that at all.
Okay, so the question is, can I still obtain a legal title if the seller doesn't have a certificate of occupancy, that is the COO, but has other documents such as purchase receipt and land survey?
Okay. All right. So this is a very common question around, and there is a reason why this usually happens. Now, flowing from the last question, once I have purchased the land from someone, let's even have two scenarios. Temilehin has bought the land from someone that has their title registered with the land registry, with the government. And then maybe before Temilehin bought, that other person sold, to another, Mr. B. But Mr. B didn't register their own title. And Mr. B now says to Temilehin, it means that Temilehin's title is not registered. The person Temilehin bought from, the title is what was given is received between Mr. B and Temilehin and the survey. So the question is, in one scenario, do you have good title? There is a prima facie evidence that you have good title. There are two types of title broadly that is known in law. There is legal title and there is equitable title. Legal title is the one that has gone through the processes of you perfecting your title with the government. So the government acknowledges that this property belongs to so person in our records. So the person who has legal title sells to Mr. B, transfers that legal title to Mr. B. So Mr. B acquires a legal title but hasn't registered their own title. If they sell that land to Temilehin, Temilehin is not acquiring a legal title but equitable title. Equitable in the sense that, okay, it is recognized that this person sold to you. It could also be possible that the same person sold to another person and even transferred a higher title to them. So if there is no other opposing title, your own title will be cut. So yes, you have title, but it is not legal title. That means it's not like the finalized title that the government can truly recognize, but it is an equitable title. So if you have receipt of purchase, it is an evidence that yes, you purchased this land. If anything happens and you get to the court can rely on that to say, okay, we can confirm that you purchased this land. However, you are required to, if there is a competing interest over that land and someone else presents a document registered with the government, even if the person bought that land from another person, after you must have paid for the land and issue receipts. So far as the person has registered their own title, it overrides your own title, because what you have is equitable title. In law, legal title is stronger than equitable title, and legal title is the one that is registered with the government, that has gone through all the procedural steps to document the ownership of that land. But on the face value, receipt and survey are evidence that you bought this thing, but they are not good documents to transfer title, especially when those properties are under the government. However, if there are properties that are designated as native lands, that is left for the communities or families, like we have in most rural areas, what the law requires is that there has to be, if there is a receipt issued, that is good. If there is a written agreement transferring that title, that is good. But then, depending on the community and the customs in those areas, certain customary requirements will have to be fulfilled. That's where you talk about customary law. So if you are able to meet with all those other customary requirements that also aligns with the provisions of the law, good title. From there, you can proceed to go and perfect your title with the government and then acquire a legal title. So it is in two levels, depending on what land you are dealing with.
Thank you, Barrister. So I'd like to do a bit of a side to this question. Good morning, everyone. My name is Benga, CEO at BuyLetLive. So, Barrister, so if I acquire a property and the person has given me a deed of assignment, I've done my due diligence, everything shows that this person is the right, we've traced the root title and we've seen all the flow to show that, okay, this person is actually authorized to transfer that title to me. And it transfers to me, but then I get my deed of assignment and I do nothing. I don't go to government to register it. I just keep the deed of assignment. I'm like, yeah, I have a deed of assignment. And that person, is there a chance that that person then goes ahead to sell that same property to someone else and issue another deed of assignment? And if he does that, and that person takes that deed of assignment to go register with the government, have I exposed myself and am I at risk?
Certainly, you are at risk, because why there is the land registry is for the purposes of putting people on notice. See, I have bought this land from, Mr. Wenger has bought this land from Temilehin. So if you are dealing with Mr. A that sold this land to me again on this land, to pay to him or to anybody, you are at risk. And that is also what the government is recognizing. So what the government recognizes, because government is meant for law and order, so there won't be disorderliness. So whoever that follows that part of law and order is the one that the government recognizes. Now, if the scenario you have painted, if I sell land to you, Mr. Wenger, and then issues you a deed of assignment and receipts, and you have done your due diligence, I have the right to do so. And you don't go ahead to register your deed of title, and something happens, I sell that same land to someone else, whether intentionally, maybe I have plenty land, I didn't remember that I've sold it, okay? Or out of a malicious intent, I decide to sell the land again to collect money from some other person. and that person goes ahead to register their title with the government and take all the steps, because he or she doesn't have notice that the land has been sold. The law will protect the other person above you that didn't register your title. So the only remedy you have is to sue me to recover your monies and, of course, damages, as the case may be. Since what we did is not legal, you can recover your the money I paid to you and any other expenses you made in acquiring the property, and even some other damages as well.
Then
and
that would then
be
all criminal, criminal or whatever case. But as far as the law is concerned, the person who has taken the step to bring the document received from Mr. Timilehin to the government is the one government to recognize as the owner of the property.
Exactly.
So it's not enough for me to buy
right.
the due diligence. I must take my own necessary step to then go and register the property and then get the government on notice that this is now mine.
That is it. You are kind of publicizing to everyone that this property is now yours. Someone else is dealing with regarding that property, they are doing it at their own peril.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Timilehin. And Timilehin, I think you have people already raising their hands though. Back to you. We can't hear you if you're speaking.
Sorry. Yeah. So I said, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that. And thank you, Binga, for the addition. Let's take one more question, then we'll start taking other questions from our audience. So I'm going to be going to the next question. The next question is, what legal tools are available to confirm if the property is free from government acquisition? What legal tools are available?
You said what do you check if it is available?
What do you say, sir?
No, the first leg of the question, you said what documents?
What legal tools are available to confirm?
Okay, legal tools.
If the property is free from government acquisition.
All right, very fantastic question. Now, the way you're going to confirm if a land is free from government acquisition is to go to the right government agency to find out. Now, in doing your due diligence, maybe at this point I don't know if it is part of the question that will be asked, but if it is, we can use this opportunity to also answer it. In conducting your due diligence, when you want to buy a land, you don't go to a land registry alone. In most of the states, including Lagos states, the offices that deals with land, either land acquisition or land development, usually differ. So there is the land registry that deals with title to land, and title to land now will include equitable title and legal title. By the way, if you have legal title and you use that property to acquire, to get some facility and all of that, and a mortgage is registered against that property, it affects your title until that mortgage has been sorted out. Now, if you want to conduct your due diligence, apart from going to the land registry is where you go to trace the root of title, confirm the nature of the grants, whether what you're acquiring is legal or equitable, and whether there are encumbrances on the land. Maybe it has been used to borrow money or whatever. You check the true particulars of the assignor to be sure that the name in the registry aligns with the name in the document you are having, not just whether it is Mr. Izuchukwu Ubadinma In some cases, people will have Izuchukwu Ubadinma in the document, and then in another document that relates to the land, you are seeing the middle name Izuchukwu Victor Ubadinma. You have to make sure that everything aligns, or someone that bears Oluwatosin will now remove Oluwa and only leave Tosin. So all of those things you check and get clarification on why one thing is the other way. So you check the description of the property, whether it is for commercial purpose or for residential purpose, because all of these things can affect your title or development along the line. You check the number of years that is left on the land you have acquired. Government typically gives land to people for 99 years. So if you're acquiring a land that was given to someone 89 years ago, and you're acquiring it now, just know that what you have there is just 10 years left. And after 10 years, you have to go back to the government to get a sort of recertification to reallocate the land to you. All things being equal and taking all the steps, they usually grant that. You check the survey information. Now, in checking the survey information, you'll be able to know the mappings, the coordinates. You will need a surveyor here to know where that land falls under, which area it falls, the size of the land, and all of that. You then go to the planning, the urban development area, depending on where you are. They have different nomenclature. They are in charge of development, about planning of the city. These ones are in charge of planning. You don't get this information from the land registry itself. So it is from this planning office, the development control agency of the government, that you find out whether this land falls under government acquired area, or if the land even falls on part of the road. Maybe even though the land is not truly acquired by the government, but the part of the land falls under a future road that the government is going to construct, you'll be able to know how much of that land you are not going to get eventually. Then you go to the tax office also to know, that's part of the due diligence, to know what taxes that are to be paid regarding the land that have not been paid and all of that. So on whether the land has been acquired by the government with regards to legal tools, basically you are going to the town planning office to find out the status of that land, whether it falls under the land that the government has acquired or to be acquired. So in many cases, recently we did a due diligence and on a property. It happens is a petrol station. It happens that part of it falls under a road that is going to be, based on the town planning. This is in Ogba industrial area in Lagos. Part of that filling station falls under a government portion of the land where road is supposed to pass. So whenever the government wakes up to construct the road, they will definitely take part of that land. And this is what they have already paid. But if proper thing has been done before that filling station was built, they would have known that, see, we can't build anything within this area. So that's one of the ways to find out. And of course, if the land has a seal of order has been issued, you will be able to look at the terms and conditions that have been stated there. You look at the size of the land from the C of O. If you flip the C of O, you usually see, depending on the state where you are, you usually see the survey information there. With the coordinates and with the surveyor, you'll be able to get some of this information accurately. And finally,
thank you.
Sorry, one more thing. One more thing. From time to time is also to look out for gazettes that are being published by the state government, especially when it relates to land. At times, even when a land was duly given to someone, allocated to someone by the government can wake up tomorrow when there is need for public use of the land, public use. The government can decide to revoke the land even when nothing wrong has happened, when no one has offended any of the terms and or violated any of the terms and conditions in the documents allocating the land, the government, for public purpose, can decide to, take back a land they have earlier allocated to someone. But in such cases, they will now have to pay compensation under the constitutional provisions. They will have to pay compensation to such a person. So in this case, the beneficiary of that land has done nothing wrong, but for public purpose, which overrides private purposes, government can acquire the land. And then, so you have to be looking out for, but of course, they will have to give you notice with regards to that. They won't just wake up and do it without appropriate notices.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah, man, this has really been exciting and exciting. If you have questions, please kindly use the chat box. Just put your question there. I can see some people are already dropping questions. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be taking one of the questions. So if you have questions, just drop your questions there. Attentive. Thank you so much. So this person is saying, good morning. Like in some part of the local, the local government, we have some communities where indigents live. When people buy such land, which they received with witness signature is issued, what do you do to regularize?
Okay, very fantastic question. We touched a bit on that. So if the land where those indigenes live is not part of the land that is designated as native land, that means they are under the full control of the government. Then receipts are not enough. But if you confirm that these lands are actually given to the government left that land for the indigenes, for the communities, for the families, and what you have is your receipts with signature. First of all, you must confirm that the traditional ruler of that area is aware of that transaction. Again, remember, this is usually to avoid conflicts in the future. Now, the flow is this. When it is a property, when it is a portion of land that the government stands in as a trustee, the place you get to confirm that there are no issues on that land and land belongs to whoever is selling to you is you go to the government agency. When it is a native land given to indigenous, community land, family lands, you go to the community head, you go to the traditional rulers to be sure, just to be on the safe side that you are engaging in this. As a matter of fact, for some communities, it is the sale is not recognized by the community until, and government also respects this, until the head is notified, the head of the community is notified. If it is a family land, there has to be witnesses from the family. As a matter of fact, from my place now, one issue is happening. Someone sold land. After he sold the land, he didn't tell the members of his family. He's the owner of the land. In their family, they've been given the land. He's the owner of the land. He sold the land for a medical purpose, but he didn't carry along the members of the family. And shortly after he sold the land, collected the money, he fell ill, and that was it. He's no more. This just happened last month. So it is now an issue between the family and the other family that bought the land. Anyway, back to the question. So if it is a community land, you have done all that is required to be done at the community level, and you want to regularize the property. One of the first things you do is just to carve out that area, get a surveyor to show that this portion of land doesn't fall under any one. You have to deal with the development control, depending on what state you are. You go to the town planning to get all the necessary information. If there is an existing information on what sort of development is going to be coming into that place. You will get that information, get a surveyor, take your surveyor, go to the government, make the necessary applications. You have gotten this land from the community, you want to perfect your title. In some jurisdictions, they won't start perfection. They don't start regularizing title in some areas until certain notices are given. But if it is in areas, part of the local governments, where the government had already started doing regularization of land titles for communities, you go to the surveyor office, get the documents registered with the registered survey plan. You go to the government, fill the necessary forms, make the necessary applications for a CFO to be issued to you. Once you meet all the requirements, make all the payments, the government is going to enter that into their database and then give the necessary CFO, as the case may be. But in many cases, they don't do this for some of the native lands, because until there is an existing development, that if that area has been planned out on what sort of development is going to be happening there, because government will not want to give you documents over land that they know there will be road passing through there. But where they inadvertently do so and decide to reclaim the land from you, they will now have to compensate you. So that's how it works. For example, here in Abuja, there are a lot of communities that even when you have done everything necessary, the government will still not have that property regularized, but they still respect what you have, as it were. But they can't regularize it because development hasn't come to that level. They haven't started regularizing properties in that level. At best, what can be done is for the local government to issue you what is called customary CFO, with which you can hold, but it doesn't get into the state's registry and into the state's land registry. But you can have a local government title, so that whenever development comes to that area and regularization starts to happen, where they midwife all the titles from the local government down to the state's land registry, that process commences. I don't know if I'll be able to answer that question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you very much. That was insightful. I will take one of the good questions we have here. We have loads of questions here. I trust we'll be able to touch on everything. But one thing I'm going to assure everyone that asks questions, that you get answers to questions. So, what is the best assurance? But let me take this question. What's the difference between a deed of assignment, certificate of occupancy, and excision? And which one guarantees ownership best?
Okay. A certificate of occupancy is issued by the government over lands that they hold in trust for the people. So, because they hold that land in trust for the people. Now, let me start from the traditional level, the family level, down to, and then link it up with the question you asked. In some traditions, of course, family land belongs to the community, to the family. So if someone grows up, comes to start building his own family, they will usually request from the head of the family that they need land to build a house. Then the head of the family, maybe the father, will now say, oh, okay, you go build on that location. And that is it. You start building. Conversely, when you come to the government level now, because the land, so the family head is holding the land in trust. That is exactly what the government is. When you now want a land, as Temilehin, the way you show you a member of the government family is that you are paying your taxes. So the government will tell you, oh yeah, apply. These are the requirements, including payment of tax. You are now an adult. you are paying your tax, bring evidence, apply for land allocation, and we'll give you. So if there is land to allocate, government will allocate a land to you. But because government is not like a family in the traditional sense, they don't do oral transactions. They will have to give you a certificate for record purposes so that anyone that comes tomorrow will see that this portion of land has been allocated to a member of this larger family called the government of Lagos State. So government of Lagos State gives you a certificate of occupancy. Of course, it starts with issuing statutory right of occupancy, eventually certificate of occupancy itself. So when you get your certificate of occupancy, it is a good title. In fact, it is more superior than any other thing that may have been issued to you or to any other person. Now, after 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you decide to sell that land, that same land. Government do not give you deed of assignment. So certificate of occupancy is issued by the government to an individual. Then deed of assignment is what happens between you and another person who wants to buy that land from you. That's where deed of assignment comes in. So the person you assign the land that has been given to you by government for which you have a CFO, you assign it to a third party. Government is the first party, you are the second person, then the third party, you assign the land to them. And what you're required to issue to them is a deed of assignment. And that deed of assignment has to be registered with the government. In most jurisdictions, a new CFO is not issued. That one CFO stands. It is part of what is used to trace title. So once you register the deed of assignment, to an extent, it supersedes the certificate of occupancy. So if you issue the deed of assignment to me, what I have as my primary title is the deed of assignment, which is now linked to the CFO that you had. You don't have the deed of assignment, but I have the deed of assignment. So the deed of assignment supersedes the CFO in the sense that it is now a letter title drawn from the one you had before. And if I want to sell to another person, what I also issue is a deed of assignment to that other person. And that deed of assignment supersedes mine if all requirements are met. So that is the difference, basically. CFO is issued by the government to the first allottee. Deed of assignment is issued between the first person who got from the government and any subsequent person by. Then, when you come to excision, this is where government, now, remember government has all the land in its, in trust, holds all the land in trust for the members of the states, for the states and all of that. In FCT, it is the minister that holds the land. He serves as the governor. So government can decide. Somewhere in Lagos now, most of the lands, a lot of land seems to have come under there are
Hello, sir.
fewer lands. Yes.
Okay,
are we there?
Yeah, we're together now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I don't know what you heard last. Okay, did you get what I said about deed of assignments? I was speaking to.
Can you start from
Yes.
there, sir? That will go.
I mean, deed of assignment, you were clear. You were about talking on excision when we said you're talking on excision when it's a when being achieved.
Okay, so on excision, remember the government has the land, so there are portions that by the provisions of the Land Use Act are left for the community members. Usually lands that they use for agricultural purpose or some other things in the rural areas, government leave that for them. But then beyond those ones, there are many other land that comes under the control of the government that they hold in trust for the people. So a community, and some of these land may have come from a community, whether fully developed or semi-developed. A community can be to approach the government and say, please, we are applying as a community. Remember, if you want to get a land from the government, you apply as an individual or even as an organization. For example, a church, a mosque, an NGO can apply to get a land from the government. Even a business can also apply to get a land allocated to it by a government. A legal person in law can apply to the government to get a land allocated to them. But in this case, a community or a family can apply to the government for a certain portion of the land held by the government to be excised to them. So this is the government saying, okay, this portion of the land, we are giving it back to a community or a family or even a group of people for private use, of course, under certain law terms and conditions. So in that case, it is given back to them, and mostly it is for communal. It is usually for communal use and all of that. And in this case, the government is going to gazette that decision and give the conditions, whatever other document is given to the people. Government is going to give the terms and conditions on how and the purpose for which that land has been given. Because every land that government gives to anyone, whether individual, organizations, or community, the purpose are usually specified. And in your dealing with that land, it must be in line with the purpose for which the land has been issued. It could be for agricultural purpose, it could be for cooperative purpose, it could be for any other form of thing. So in applying for it, you have to let the government know. The government doesn't just do it without an application coming to it from the group that seeks to do that. But most times it is usually back to the community. And with regards to the question of which one has more title over the other, it is usually, yes, when it comes to what title, it's usually one title. So any title that meets the... Are you there?
Yeah. We're talking about the one that has more.
Yes. When it comes to land, is always one title. So you can say this title supersedes this. You only have one legal title at every point. So the other ones, any other thing that is not a legal title can be classified as equitable title. So if you followed my explanation between C of O and deed of assignment, if there is a C of O over a land, okay, and there is a deed of assignment over the same land, and there is an excision by the government over the same land, what will now have to happen? Maybe if it is an error the government has done, gave someone a C of O over a land, registered deed of assignment over the same land, that deed of assignment should be able to be traced back to the C of O. If it is not properly traced back to the C of O, then there is an error. Depending on where that error falls, if it is the error from the government, what the government will do is to look at the person who first regularized DS properly, and that title remains with that person, whether it is up. And in this case, it will be a deed of assignment because C of O is only one over a land. So if you follow the explanation, Temileye gets a C of O from the government and then sells the land to me. I get a deed of assignment and I register it. That extinguishes the rights of Temileye over the land. If Temileye goes and gives someone else that C of O and another deed of assignment, the person cannot successfully register the deed of assignment except if my records are totally erased from the system. But thankfully, I will usually have additional document, my own copy of the document. All of those things can be brought. You can make your case in court or wherever, and court will see who first of all regularized their own. There has been a case government even issued C of O, two C of O to two different individuals. We've had series of such situations. In such case, whoever that was issued C of O first gets to have a better title. If it is deed of assignment, whoever that regularized theirs first, even if there are two regularization, quote and unquote, it rarely happens. Whoever that regularizes theirs first gets paid, except if there is, or rather has title over the land, except if there is fraud. But if government makes a mistake and a property that has a C of O and has a deed of assignment in favor of someone that has been registered, and by whatever reason, government makes the mistake of also excising that portion of land and giving it to any individual or community, not being a government for public use, government public use, then you can, whoever that has that deed of assignment or C of O has a better title and can push the government to revise whatever steps they have taken. And where they don't do so, the person has to go get the remedy from the court. So whether it is C of O, deed of assignment, or excision, anyone that happens first, that gets regularized first with the government without elements of fraud, has better title. The other ones, the government will usually withdraw them. It's just like when you register a company with the Corporate Affairs Commission and there are similar names. We've seen multiple situations where there are similar names or the same RUC number. The Corporate Affairs Commission will withdraw the letter certificate that they issued. The same thing applies to this one, and then compensates the person or reallocates them to another portion of land.
Thank you very much, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm with you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We have lots of questions, loads of questions, and very, very interesting questions. I hope we're able to touch everything, but let me ask this one. I'm not going to be mentioning names because some names were mentioned on this. I'm not going to be mentioning names. I'll try as much as possible names so that we'll still get the context of the question. Okay, this person is saying, I bought the land in Lekki, Lagos State from a particular company in 2021 last year. It's a particular real estate company in Lagos. I realized SEC Nigeria had shut them down. I have tried everything to get my payment back. I have all my necessary paperwork from the land, which I can no longer access due to another company taking it over. I guess that's the company. Another company took over. What can I do to retrieve my money back?
Okay. If I get a question right, the land has been taken back by the government, or
So,
those people do not have the title.
So I think what happened is that the company that this person invested with has been shut down by SEC. So I think that So I think
okay.
That in turn made all their assets also forfeited, I guess. So or probably they were transferred, and because the person is saying here that another company took them over, so probably it has been transferred to another company or something. So yeah.
Okay.
But the person is claiming he has all the paperwork for the property in which he bought the investment.
Okay, I see that. Now, this is both an issue of land, real estate, mingled with corporate affairs matters. So, the common principle of law is that whoever acquires a thing acquires both the rights and the obligations or the liabilities in that particular company. So by shutting down of the company, it could mean a whole lot of things. It could mean the company has been suspended from operation. SEC is a regulator in the capital markets, Security and Exchange Commission. So they regulate activities in the capital market. That they can decide to withdraw the license of that company. And if they are being investigated, they can also be stopped from carrying out operations. So that could amount to the shutting down. Another level of shutting down could be that the company has gone under maybe winding up processes. But if what he stated later, the person asking the question, if what they stated later is that another company has taken over this other defaulting company, then in that case, whoever that takes over that company takes over both the assets, whatever assets that are left, and the liabilities that comes with them. So you have a right to follow whoever, because a company is if it is not a business name, what we call ventures or enterprises. If it is not that, which does not necessarily have a separate legal title apart from the individuals. If it is a company that has share capital, that has directors and shareholders, and another company has acquired them, then that other company takes over whatever assets and liabilities they have. So you can go after that company to recover whatever you are being owed. Even if the company is undergoing winding up processes, you can still make your interest known that you are owned by this company and all of that. But if the company that acquired them did that for the purposes of receivership, there is a process what we call receivership, meaning that to get all the receivership and that receivership process means that all the liabilities the other company owns, this company is going to manage the company for a while, recover all the receivables from the company, use it to settle whoever is being owned. And after they finish their receivership processes, they will hand over the management to the company. So if that is not the case here of what you mean by being acquired or have taken over their operations, then you cannot really go after that company. You have to stick with the company you dealt with. Or if the position is that they have acquired them, in the sense they have bought them over, depending on the process, then you have to go follow up with that other company that acquired them. So there are different levels of acquiring depending on what you mean. So I have given two instances. So if it is a receivership process, you don't have any case against this new company. You have to still stick with this other one. And the only remedy left for you is probably to go to court to enforce your liabilities. You can even institute a winding up process against them. It would be a grant for you to institute a winding up processes against them, and the court will set that up, and you'll be able to recover your money to the extent that they have enough fund to pay you. Because if at the end of the day, all their assets are sold and it is not enough to pay all the people they are owing, whatever is left is shared amongst the people, and whatever anybody gets is what it is. I believe I've been able to speak to that. Samina, are you there?
Yes, I'm with you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for answering that. There's this particular question here, and I'm going to ask this question because I think this person is also is in Abuja. So the Abuja people are turning up right now. So please, I bought a plot of land with person wrote Arrow, but I guess this person is trying to say Sioux in F01 Abuja. The search and check was done in Wari area council registry, Fatal Urban Planning Department, was registered in the Federal High Court with deeds of assignment of the previous buyer confirmed. How do I register my name as the current owner, and where are the government office to apply to? Thank you. So I think the question is asking about how we can register. I think there was a previous one. I wanted to ask the time. All right.
Okay, I get that. I get that question. I can well identify with the person and the question. Now, in Abuja, there are 6 area councils, and Buhari Area Council is one of them. Anyone that follows the trend in Abuja, the area councils, even though that matter has really been, it's been a long age issue. So the lands again in Abuja is held by the Minister of FCT on behalf of the people. So if you have a land and the title document you have was issued by the Buhari Area Council, until sometime in 2014 in Abuja, there is an agency of government, it's more like a private partnership arrangement, called ACTRIS, Abuja Area Council Title Regularization System. So ACTRIS is supposed to midwife all title issued by the area council, then midwife it into the FCT A title lands operated by AGIS. AGIS is Abuja Geographical Information System, but that organization was disbanded in 2014. And what that means is that any title that is issued by the area council before and after, in fact, as we speak, area council do no longer issue title since after that 2014. Anyone you see now would have probably been backdated. Two, you can't even conduct a formal search in any area council. You can only have a window search conducted. And of course, you know, the window search, you'll be trusting that they are giving you the right information because you can't hold it against anyone. So in this circumstance, depending on all the documents you have, in some cases, people started their regularization process and it stopped halfway, so they couldn't conclude. One of the things I will advise you do, because if you want to confirm the authenticity of the land, you can do area council, do your window search, but you still have to go back to AGIS, Abuja Geographical Information System. They still have a department, that ACTRIS department, but they are not functioning for the public purpose. They want to bring them back on board, but that has not been concluded. You can still conduct your window search there, and depending on what you have, you can write to the Director of Lands, Abuja Geographical Information System, Director of Lands, Abuja Geographical Information System, to confirm the title on those documents you have. Even though they've been issued by area council, the Director of Lands, Abuja Geographical Information System can give you a confirmation in writing, but just note that it takes a lot of time. So on this one, you will need a lawyer to properly guide you. But then, if the land has been properly regularized, and you have a regularization document, it is written on its regularization. If you have it, you can actually perfect your title at Abuja Geographical Information System after making all the necessary payments. But if you don't have that regularization done with the signature of the FCT minister and on the letterhead of AGIS, you may have to only go by way of farming the title and then wait until they lift the ban on regularization of area council lands and you continue. So that's why Abuja has its own unique system. I must tell you, it has its own unique system. So in this one, you need a lawyer to hold your hands and advise you properly on what to do after reviewing all the documents. Okay, and that was a good question, by the way.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, the person who asked that question. We have a lot of questions, and
I mean, there is a question I believe you skipped. I would like to quickly answer.
Okay. All right, sir.
Very straightforward. So the person says, what if someone goes on to build on the land while I am still registered with government? So if you have a land and you know that you have your title, you have been registered with government, and you are doing everything required of you, and someone is building on the land, and you have confirmed that the person's title doesn't supersede your own, maybe government didn't also register the person's title before your own, you have all this information. The law says that whoever owns the land has whatever is on the land. So the person will as well finish building and it will become your land. But of course, you know, they won't just move out. You have to go to court to enforce it, that this land belongs to you, and get the person to be thrown out. And land matter takes some time anyway. So, but if the person presents one, it has an element of civil and criminal trespass. So depending on what is happening, you can also involve the police, because once you want to enter into the land while the person is also building on it, it could lead to public disorder. So it's to that extent the police can be involved, and everybody will have to present whatever documents they have. But where you also don't want to have the time so wasted, you can quickly go to court, get an order for the person to stop the person from trespassing on your land. And once you're able to get judgment against the person, whatever the person has built on the land belongs to you, except the person now comes back for you, and for you to, for both of you to agree on how to go forward in resolving the, yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. We have beautiful questions here, and interesting thing is that time is not so much on our side. With the look of things, like we would still like to have you one more time again. Maybe have a part B of this session later in the future. But one thing we'll do is that for anybody who we are not, we'll just take two more questions. And if your question has not been touched, or you want to get some answers, or you want to ask other questions, you can just drop your questions. We'll leave the chat open at least for a while after the session, so that I can drop your questions and drop your email, so we can reach out to you. And you can also reach out to us at info@buyletlive.com. So I'm going to say that info@buyletlive.com. So if you have your question, you can send them to us, or you can drop your questions here, and your email will reach out to you, as the case may be. By God's grace, we are going to have another session again, a part B of this later in the future. But like I said, for now, we'll just take two more, so that we can call it a day. So I'm going to take this question. Okay, this person is saying this, please, sir, is it possible that if someone has a C of O and the okay, good day, sir. Please, is it possible that one has a C of O on a property and the government acquires it, it can be allotted another plot? I think we had touched on that earlier, that if that is the case, the government will compensate you for that. Do you have anything to add to that, sir?
Yes, what you said is right. However, if the government acquires it due to default in you meeting with the terms and conditions stipulated in that, you may not be able to get compensation. For example, if you get any CF or any government title document that has been issued, it will state the period within which you must develop the land. It will state what the grant rents are. It will state other conditions. If you don't meet any of those conditions, it could be a grant for the government to revoke. And if the revocation is in that on that basis, you may not be able to get any compensation, except they didn't give you notice usually. But of course, it will not be a very contested issue. So it's always good to ensure that you look at the conditions and keep to them. So once you've met all the conditions, paying all the taxes related to the land, start your development within the prescribed time and building according to approved development plan. If the land is revoked, you'll be able to get compensation from the government.
All right.
Sorry, Temilehin, I just wanted to chip in something quickly, which I've also seen. It's part of the question someone asked that I answered, but I didn't mention it. So that was the person that asked question from Abuja about registering the title, the document he or she has with the Federal High Court. Now, Federal High Court doesn't register. What I'm sure the person is referring to is that the Commission of Oath stamped on that document. That does not validate anything. Just know, it doesn't really validate anything. Only that to some extent it gives people comfort that this document has been stamped by the federal government, but it doesn't validate anything. The most important stamp you need on a document is the one Federal Inland Revenue Service paying the stamp duty on the documents, and the one stamped by the government, the land registry, and all of that.
Right. Thank
So
you
once
so
you
much.
have government, once you have federal court stamp on it and go and relax, you are still in the same
You are covered.
shoes with anyone that had. No. If you have court stamp on it, not being a land registry, you are still exposed as much as someone who doesn't have a court stamp on it.
Okay.
Except if other things have been done before the court stamp.
Okay. Thank you so much for the clarity on that. There's someone here who has been buzzing us heavily. Abdulhamid, thank you so much. I can see your question. And yes, Abdulhamid is saying that he's thanking us for this insightful and insightful program that we put together, and he's asking if the recording will be available. So I want to assure everybody that yes, the recording is going to be available and it's going to be on our platform. So just follow us so that you can know when we drop the video to this particular event. So I will just take one more question and then we'll call it a day. So let me take this. This one is okay. Let me take this. So what are the necessary steps to take if buying agricultural land from the government?
Okay, if it is an agricultural land that you want and you want it from the government directly, that means you have to apply to the government to allocate land for you for agricultural purposes. Now, for that to happen, you have to have all the requirements depending on what state you are. But the common requirements would be you provide your tax clearance certificate. And for this purpose, they will usually give it to a registered organization, a registered company for agricultural purpose because it's a commercial purpose. So commercial properties are not given to individuals. Individuals are given residential properties. But if you want a commercial property, whether for agricultural purpose, for school, or for whatever, you will have to use a company. The company will have to be in good standing. Good standing includes being active in CAC, having the tax clearance certificates, and all of those. You make the necessary payments. Depending on the availability of land, most states do not have so much land like others. So depending on the availability of land, government will usually treat the application based on the number that comes to them. So once you do all of these things, you'll get allocation for a commercial land for agricultural purpose. Other ways you can get a land for farming purpose, you may want to go through a cooperative. And cooperative many times is usually faster as well. You go on the cooperative, you can buy from individuals, lease from individuals, or even apply through the Ministry of Agriculture and all of that. They can help to facilitate to get a land either on a permanent basis or on a temporary basis. Just one quick question. Someone asks here, irrevocable power of attorney doesn't pass good title. Yes, irrevocable power of attorney doesn't pass good title. Even though the person has collected money and say it is irrevocable, it doesn't pass good title. If you have irrevocable power of attorney and someone has deed of assignment, that deed of assignment will override yours, except if there are other fraudulent things that may have done in order to outwit you who has an irrevocable power of attorney. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate the time. It's an honor having you. G-Banks, do you have anything to add before?
Yes, I'll say thank you very much, Mr. Izuchukwu, for taking time to hold such a very, very educational session. I'm sure that everyone has learned one thing or the other. And just to the audience and to attendees, BuyLetLive will make available the recording. I mean, you can reach out to us at BuyLetLive if you need more insight on all of this. And also just to say that this is why we exist at BuyLetLive. Beyond facilitating transactions, we want to help ensure that everyone who desires to purchase real estate or carry out real estate transactions has the right knowledge from legal to survey. I mean, any and everything that helps you make your best decisions in real estate. And of course, you always have us to reach out to if you need guide, so that we can connect you to the right persons, and just so we can help you make sure that you secure your financial investments. Like they say, nobody wants to know the cost of not hiring professionals. The cost of not hiring professionals is 2x the cost you'll have spent making sure professionals get involved in your transaction. And it's always better late than never. But best thing is to not have to find out the cost of not working with professionals.
Yeah.
So yes, sir. Okay, I thought about to say something. So I was going to say, you don't want to find out the cost of ignoring that small fee. The small fee you're saving by not getting a lawyer involved. You don't want to know the cost of it if it comes around to bite you. Right? So let's work together. I'm going to reach out to us about it. We're here to support you. Our job is to make the property acquisition process safer, easier, and smoother for every Nigerian and Nigerian home and abroad. So thank you so much for joining our session. Thank you once again, Barrister Izuchukwu. We look forward to hearing more from everyone. Bye. Over to you, Timmy.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Abdulhamid, Eric. Thank God, Benedicta, Damilola, Chinike, and every other person who could join. Esther, see you, Akim. Thank you so much. We hopefully will have Barrister once more again, to help us handle some of our pressing questions like this in some other webinars. So, but for now, we'd like to say, yeah, no problem, sir. So, but for now, we'd like to call it a day, and we look forward to hearing from you. Let's make that. Let's help you make your real estate, your real estate deal come true. God bless you. Thanks for joining. We'll see you some other time. Bye.
Thank you so much.
So you can still drop your questions if you are still online. You can still drop your questions if you have questions. I'm going to leave the space open for at least another say 10 minutes, and then we'll close it. So you can drop your questions. Thank you.